Let me be very clear with leaders, and especially those of you that are in HR. If you are not having the candid conversation with your employee about what their job will look like whenever AI comes in and you start integrating all of it, if you're not having that conversation now and either preparing them to be upskilled or preparing them to find something else, you're committing leadership malpractice. So that is the thing that keeps me up at night. I am responsible for upskilling, reskilling, and redeploying our current workforce. So we have got some brilliant technologists, and most of them, just because most tech people are playing with AI anyway, they're naturally curious about new tools. But how do we democratize and escalate that and scale it up at a speed that we need to? I care a lot about our people. I care a lot about our company, and I care a lot about what we do. We do some really cool shit. But on the flip side of that, I'm so excited because if I had to solve this 4 years ago, my brain would shut down. But I don't have to do that now.
Hi, I'm Denise Chaffin, and I am your podcast host for Talking TA. And today I am honored to have with me Trent Cotton, who I met at RecFest back in September. Trent is the VP of Talent Culture for Hatchworks AI. Trent, welcome. I am so glad we finally get a chance to talk.
I know it's fun. It was kind of fun. We dove into some of these topics whenever we spoke at Wreckfest. So I'm glad that we got some time on the calendar to really kind of peel back the onion.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, and I think that they're relevant topics. We had also talked about some learning and development, which we probably should
Oh
try to
yeah,
dive into a little bit. But yeah, redefining agentic AI and the implications. Ooh, HR in 2030. So let's talk about it. First of all, before we get started, tell me a little bit about your background, just so that our audience knows who you are.
sure thing. Um, I got into HR because I hated working with HR. Believe it or not, I was a banker for the first part of my career, including working and putting myself through college. And I never found any kind of support for HR. This was before Megan Trainor's song "No, Just Call Me No," but that's kind of how I felt about HR. And so I decided in 2004 I wanted to do a pivot because I had done a variety of different lending, so commercial, high net worth, retail. At the time, I was managing, was it 4 states for a mortgage company? I was just bored. I always like to have a challenge, and so I tiptoed into HR, got a job working as a contract recruiter for a bank, and just really kind of fell in love with the space. One thing that I found, um well, one, I was an oddball in 2004 because I was surrounded by people who had been in HR for 10 or 15 years, and, like, who am I to come in and try to offer ideas? But one thing that was a little bit different for me was that I was able to talk to the client in their language. So mortgage as an example. Whenever I was talking to a lender or a leader, and they're talking about, well, I need the portfolio size this, I need to run off at this, the back end yield spread. I knew what all that stuff was. They didn't have to dumb it down or explain it to me, and that made me a more effective recruiter. So fast forward 21 years, as a VP of talent and culture for Hatchworks AI, I get to do all the fun stuff in HR. I have a wonderful counterpart that handles the payroll, the taxes, the total rewards, and the operations and facility. And we kind of play to each other's strengths because I like the other side of HR, kind of the strategic aspect from hello to retirement and everywhere in between. And so that's what I do now. I do a lot of speaking, a lot of writing about HR, and last year did a brand pivot. I've been talking a lot about TA because that's how I got my start, but I am super passionate and I think it is super relevant that we need to start having the conversation about how AI is going to impact what HR looks like in the future.
I love it. Yeah, and we do need to have those conversations because there are so many different conversations right now.
Oh,
Oh my
absolutely.
gosh. Yeah, I had a conversation the other day with a man who said, as far as generative AI goes for talent acquisition, we should be looking at just using open source AI tools versus tools that are specific to any one industry because they're going to change so much. Then why
They will.
would you put forward the cost to specific tools instead of just using open source AI tools for redundant or repetitive tasks, especially
Right.
when there's so many of them out there now?
Well, and if you look at traditional HR tech, it has always been off the shelf. Now you can fully customize it before you implement, but it was usually kind of geared toward your upper mid-size and enterprise clients. Those that were smaller shops, kind of like in my world, we have a very small people team between my partner's team and mine. But the workload is, I would probably dare say, is a lot more because you got your hands on all kinds of different things. But then also 2 search agencies that were not the Insight Globals, these massive shops or RPOs, they didn't really have access to that kind of technology, so they were being very rudimentary, they're scrappy. Spreadsheets, CRMs, if there was some type of automation in the CRM, they would leverage it. The advent and implication of AI now means that it you don't necessarily have to use some of those products. You can actually build some of the stuff yourself. I've been playing around with building my own AI agents, and it's frustrating because I'm not a developer. I think logically. I mean, my minor is statistics and finance, so I've got that logic mind. But whenever I look at code, my brain shuts down. And that was a barrier for the longest time. Now it's not. Between Claude and some of these no code tools, you can go out and build your own product that meets your specific needs at a cost that is completely just a fraction of what you would spend trying to buy something off the shelf that would be about 50% applicable to what the problem is that you're trying to solve. So it's really changed the game.
Now, you mentioned to me the term agentic AI. So let's talk about that. Let's dive into that a little bit because we're used to the terms open source or generative AI, but not agentic. So explain what that is.
All right. So agentic AI refers to leveraging AI agents. So a lot of people are very familiar, of course, with ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, all of these different tools, but that is highly dependent on the human initiating that transaction. So I go into ChatGPT, I ask it a question, it provides me a response. Agentic AI is, think of it as like a virtual assistant. It's highly proactive. It goes out and it can make decisions and can operate independently. Now, when you're building it, you can kind of give it a framework to say, hey, here's your box, operate within the box, or you can leave it completely open. It's all in how you design it. This is this is going to be what absolutely transforms not just HR, but any industry that we're in, because now you can look at not just these repetitive things that you can go in and have some type of automation. You can actually add a layer of thinking in there and reasoning that is a lot more efficient most of the time than human. So case in point, let's use something that is non-TA. All right, I can develop an agent that will go and analyze all of the different survey data that we get back. So let's say we send out an ENPS and it's through a Google form. Just make it nice and easy. I can go and tell an agent, hey, if someone scores below X, I want you to email me. And oh, by the way, here's a list of all the HR partners and what departments they support. I want you to match that employee to that department and send an email to that HRBP and say, hey, you might want to check in on Trent. His ENPS is a lot lower than it was last year. This is an indication that he's probably getting ready to leave. Think about that.
What's an EMPS?
Net promoter score and employee net promoter score. So,
Okay.
how likely would your employees refer someone else to come and work there? It's an indication of employee culture health. So I mean, but it can also be for candidate surveys. At Hatchworks, we actually have for each stage of the process just a quick survey is sent out to the participant. How did it go? What would you change? Any kind of feedback. And there's a couple of different variations on that. So now I can go and look at every step of the process and look at our health score from the candidate, whether they end up getting the job or not. And I think that that's where a lot of these candidate surveys, they're sent to the ones that are hired, and you're completely nullifying other people that were in the process. I want to hear from everyone. I can actually now have an agent that sits on top and says, if you start to see any type of negative downward trends at any stage in this process, I want you to alert me. I don't have to go in and check those every day. I've got my agent doing that, and it's going to raise its hand. So that's when people start talking about agentic AI, it's just leveraging agents to become even more impactful. And that's where you're starting to hear a lot of the noise about AI is going to replace jobs. Agentic AI is definitely raising some eyebrows. And I think that's why I like to talk about this. I want to bring this to the conversation because it's being talked a lot in tech. It's being talked a lot on the business side. I don't hear it a lot in HR. I mean, let's face it, HR outside of TA, HR is usually the last to try anything. So I remember whenever I started in TA, um, so that was 2004, I think. Yeah. So we were showcasing jobs on our job board and then asking people once they were interested to complete, like print out and fax in an application. This was 2004, right? It was still being done in 2005. And like just the rest of the world was moving along going, oh, yeah, we can do this. But HR was, we don't want people's data out there. Ooh, we don't want this. Ooh, we don't want that. So there's a very natural risk aversion in HR, just as proxy of how we're wired. TA is a little rogue. Most of TA goes, ooh, new tool makes me a little bit more confident. Let's try it. So you've got this kind of battle going on. But if you look at where all the AI tech is now in the HR tech, what is it focused on? Recruiting. Because they know that recruiters will give it a shot. They know that HR and large companies would be willing to test drive something in that part of the process. But the gains of what is available because of agentic AI, it's already helping TA. It's really going to impact the other side of HR.
So, which jobs is agentic AI supposedly going to replace?
You know, it's funny. I'm actually going to quote one of my podcast guests, JT O'Donnell. She said, AI is not coming for the blue collar jobs, it's coming for the white collar jobs. And that statement, that little blurb, has been playing over and over and over in my mind since we had the interview because we kind of look at all these lower level jobs that will be the first ones to go. And I don't know that that's the case. I think it's the middle. I really think it's the middle. I think middle management is probably going to be relooked at. A lot of inefficiencies there. You can run a flatter organization if you have, for every employee, you've got 5 different agents who are doing the job of 15 people pre agentic AI, right? That's where companies are really looking at how do we maximize and increase the efficiency of the workforce. So I read a stat the other day, and we were at a friend's house, and I'm lucky I have a lot of really smart friends that are really in business, and they were throwing out stats. They go, "Yeah, I saw that AI is going to um, what was it? That they're going to create 92 million jobs and it's only going to eliminate 89." And on the surface, that sounds like, oh, okay, hey, we're still kind of net positive 4 million. But let's back that up. 89 million people will lose their jobs because they are no longer needed because let's just say AI. How many of those have actually been trained for the $92 million 92 million jobs that are coming? So we don't have a net positive 4 million. We have a net negative 100 and what, 70? So that's what we're walking into. And that's what's terrifying.
But question, so there isn't any kind of a transition then between, or I should say overlap or parallel between the
There will be, but we're going to start seeing that. I kind of see it as going as a cliff. So we've got some people who will not be qualified to work in the new AI created um, role. Okay. On the flip side of that, you've got these new jobs that are being created that no one is qualified for because we don't even know what that looks like. Case in point, I really think that there's going to be a new role that's going to be in each different department, and it's going to be called an AI compliance officer or an AI officer. They're responsible for the strategy. They're responsible for the due diligence on any kind of vendors that have AI in there, the compliance, the regulations, the reporting, the ethics. That's a new job that I can see at a company level, but in some of these enterprise companies, even at a department level. So, an HR AI officer. How do we handle everything with EEOC, which we know has got a lot of reporting? If you're under any kind of government contracting, OFCCP, there's going to be tremendous impacts on AI and how you do those types of reporting. So, you need someone that kind of owns all of that. You can't spread that responsibility and the focus across the organization. So that's just one job. I can't nearly like my mind can't wrap around all the different types of jobs that we'll be talking about in 2030 that are not here and not on our radar now.
Okay, this is actually a very positive conversation, really. I mean, if you think about it, because jobs that exist today, there's a lot of jobs that exist today that didn't exist 20 years ago, right? So, at what point, though, do we learn what those jobs are going to be so that we can start training people for those roles?
So that is the thing that keeps me up at night. I am responsible for upskilling, reskilling, and redeploying our current workforce. So we have got some brilliant technologists. And most of them, just because most tech people are playing with AI anyway, they're naturally curious about new tools. But how do we democratize and escalate that and scale it up at a speed that we need to? And we're building an internal university. We're building a couple of, we're actually building an agent. We're going to call it the career hacker that's going to be connected to the person's background, to the career path that they want to take, to coaching documents from their employee, from their managers. And it'll help create a career development plan. So that agent's sitting on top of 4 or 5 different systems and interacting directly with that employee, but also giving me feedback as the people person going, hey, Denise has made a lot of progress on her development plan. According to my agent's estimates, she should be done by January, which means she'll be ready to assign to a new AI project in February. Workforce planning. Like that we're there. We are there. It keeps me up at night for 2 reasons. One, I'm anxious because I care a lot about our people. I care a lot about our company and I care a lot about what we do. We do some really cool shit. But on the flip side of that, I'm so excited because if I had to solve this 4 years ago, my brain would shut down. I have a learning and development background, not to the extent that I've run a department. I mean, I've done some instructional design, but I don't have to do that now. I'm looking at learning management systems that literally all I have to do is go and pull a YouTube video, throw it into my Google Gym that I built that pulls out the video and says, okay, if you're going to create a learning plan based on this, here's how you construct it. I take that, pop it into the AI for the LMS, and it creates the course content for me.
Now, how
Just
when you say pop it into the system,
for the LMS,
yeah, for the LMS. Because again, you said it's sitting on top of kind of waterfalling this yeah.
my agent, yeah, yeah. So this is one little section. Think of it as kind of like a tool that helps my agent. But the learning management system is like a traditional LMS, but they have incorporated AI to help you be able to create course content based off of something that you have. So it can be a document, it can be a PDF. You can go and throw a PDF in there and say, "Hey, I need to teach based off of this," and it gives you a course outline, at least a framework that you can start building and going there. That's how we can scale. 4 or 5 years ago, it would have been, "Hey, we need about 18 months to roll this out." Now think about how fast AI is changing. In 18 months, what, 18 months ago, ChatGPT was cool. It's a little slow, a little clunky. Think about it now. I mean, it's light years different. So I'm glad to see that there are some HR tech that are looking at this and going, how do we incorporate this? Because this is going to be the new standard.
And you mentioned Claude a while ago. Now, I haven't used Claude yet, but I understand that Claude actually can have a verbal conversation now and I wanna
Oh,
try it
yeah.
out. Yeah.
Oh, you
That's
can do that with ChatGPT too if you've got like, I've got a Mac. Yeah, and so I've got that, and actually Google has an AI studio to where you can actually share your screen, and I did this the other night because I was so frustrated I could not get this code to work. And so I actually just shared my screen and I'm talking to Google and going, Google, why is this not working? Why am I getting this error code? And it goes and it looks and it says, hey, you need to change this syntax here. And I kid you not, it was like two things of syntax and I hit it. Now it works. Before I would have been researching and just getting incredibly frustrated. So that's the level of integration that I'm so excited about when we look at kind of the human AI combination going forward. That's why a lot of companies are trying to go ahead and make the cuts now because they see that as being the future.
wow. Well, and going back to Claude, I heard that Claude, though, is more personable. I guess
It is.
it's a little more like a human than
Right.
ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is still you're talking to a robot, you know what I mean?
You do, but the thing though with Gemini, with Claude, with Perplexity, and ChatGPT, so many people only know the surface level.
Right,
I create a prompt and it gives me information.
right.
ChatGPT, you can actually go in there and train it. There's a way that you can say, here's my book that I wrote. Here's how I speak. When you respond to me or I ask you to write something, I want you to write it in that voice. Same thing with Claude. You can go and create these projects and give it some direction on how you want things done. So the tool is what you make of it. And I think that a lot of people just say, oh, well, it's not working right. But they haven't really put the time in to say, how can I make it work better? So I had
I say, how can people train themselves on
YouTube.
besides just a front end? YouTube?
YouTube, it is the second largest search engine in the world. I have learned so much. Like, I'm a weirdo. Okay. So I'll listen to YouTube lessons and people talking about tech and everything while I work out at night. And I do faster cardio in the morning. And I mean, if you were to see me on the treadmill, I've got my iPad, my AirPods in, and I'm watching somebody build something. And I'm wondering, like, I wonder if I can do a version of that here in HR. That's how I've learned all this stuff. So you've got to go out there and you've got to leverage the free tool that's already out there. And there's some incredible people out there that just love to kind of walk you through what they did. They want to teach and they do it out of the goodness of their heart. Take them up on it.
Especially now, take them up on it
Oh,
because
heck
at some
yeah.
point they're gonna start monetizing the training that's gonna go into training the
Hmm.
how
If
many
they're
millions of
smart, yeah.
people? Yeah, yeah, they're smart, yeah.
But you were asking about what kind of jobs are out there. There's a guy that I'll watch, actually two, that is on a particular tool and I'm trying to learn. They've actually, I think it was late 23, one of them, late 2023, he started helping people create GPTs. And then agentic started kind of peering out and he was like, I wonder what we can do here. He went from making zero to $4 million in revenue in 1 year, just building agentic AI and automation workflows for companies, solving problems, leveraging something. And if you watch him, like there was one that he was charging, I want to say 40 or $50,000 just for the product. And then he was going to have a subscription service to keep it maintained. And it was for an insurance company. He built it on the screen in 45 minutes, ready to export. Think about that. That's $1,000 a minute. If you just do $45,000, that's $1,000 a minute. And so those are the types of things that I see that a lot of companies are going, how do we leverage people like that? And also too, I think the gig economy is going to explode because people are going to find I can't really leverage my skills in this new organization because I have agentic doing all of it, but there's something over here that I can do. Let me just do that because I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I don't want to be severed again.
That's coming up a lot. That is coming up.
Hmm.
In fact, I just had a conversation this morning about that. Where there are a lot of people wanting to make that transition from being a W-2 employee, especially a lot of people, like we were talking about, know that at some point their position could be on the line.
Let me be very clear with leaders and especially those of you that are in HR. If you are not having the candid conversation with your employee about what their job will look like whenever AI comes in and you start integrating all of it, if you're not having that conversation now and either preparing them to be upskilled or preparing them to find something else, you're committing leadership malpractice. Because I sat down with my team on the TA side in December, my last one on one with each one of them. I said, over the holiday, I'm going to unplug and reboot because 2024 was like an episode of the Squid Games. I mean, think about it. It was kind of like you're starting like who's going to get shot next. And so I was like, I need to package 2024 up and move on. But I want you to be thinking this time next year, you're not going to be in the position that you're in now as a recruiter because it's going to look completely different. How it's going to look, I don't know. But I want to train you for what you think it might look like. So I've got one that is all in on automations. And so part of our 101 is going over the normal stuff during our sprint recruiting. We do points and everything like where are we on all that. And then the other half is what did you learn in automation? Like I think it was last week. He goes, I ran into this. And so I shared my screen. I was like, hey, I learned this trick. And so he went in and he goes, hey, that fixed it. I love that. I've got another one that's just loves learning and development. So I'm bringing him on this journey as we're looking at learning management systems and creating an internal university. And then I've got another one, she just loves data and she loves onboarding. And so we're looking at moving part of the onboarding, automating it and pulling it into the TA from operations. So if all of this goes well, at the end of the year, I'll have an automation expert, an L&D expert, and an onboarding expert, and all of them are using agents. So with 3, I'm actually able to do the job of 10. Those are the kinds of conversations that we need to be having with our team members. So, I mean, we do that for our clients. I mean, that's a lot of what we're doing is kind of working on a lot of it is data work because in order for AI to work, you've got to one, know where your data is, and two, what data is being pulled, and three, make sure it's clean. So we're doing a lot of that with our clients with huge data amounts of data, but we're also kind of working with them and kind of getting it ready for that AI. A lot of companies are wanting to keep that AI strategy in-house, so we're kind of coming in as an advisory, but there are projects that we're going from discovery all the way to deployment. On the TA side, I want us to own it because it's a way for them to learn. It's a way for them to test in a very safe environment. So if it fails, hey, I'll pick up the phone and I'll call the candidate. Hey, sorry about that. We're testing some new stuff in AI. This is what happens. So it's kind of fun because it gives the TA members an opportunity to learn something different that may propel them in a completely different space. Because Gartner and who was the other one? There was another one that came out that by 2028, they expect anywhere between 45 and 65% of the recruiting job to be automated. We need to be having these conversations with our team members now.
So those positions that are gonna be I mean, I know I saw something on Forbes too about that.
Mhm, mhm.
So, the people whose positions are gonna transition to AI, then what can they look at? What's their takeaway at this point in time with respect to the direction they wanna go in with their careers?
Mhm. The biggest thing is to learn about AI. So start, what's the difference between traditional AI and agentic AI? What goes into agentic AI? What are the data sets? What's the different types of data that goes into it? And it doesn't have to be technical. Okay. I'm not asking for someone who is maybe they've been working 15 years in an operations level job where they're checking paperwork and all that. I'm not expecting them to go and try to learn how to be a machine learning engineer. That's unless that's their thing, go for it. You can make a shit ton of money doing that. But if you just want to figure out like how is my interest going to align with the new AI economy, you need to start learning about AI. And there's a ton of stuff out there on YouTube, and you'll find something that interests you, and you'll just start pulling, and that little algorithm on YouTube, it'll feed that beast, but it's to your benefit because you're going to be able to go deeper and deeper and deeper into that subject. So for me, do I want to be a machine learning engineer? Absolutely not. Do I want to be an AI engineer? Absolutely not. But I do want to know the difference between traditional and agentic. I do want to be able to see how people build things because they're solving a problem in a completely different industry, completely different department, But there's a lot of similarity between that and a problem that I need to solve on the people side. So I can glean some of that. And it also helps me whenever I'm interacting with someone that's building something for me, I can talk the language. So I don't have to worry about bugs. I don't have to worry about miscommunications. It's all about the education. And it needs to be driven at an org level. But if your org is not doing it, you need to drive it yourself.
What if I told you there's one event that brings together the brightest minds in people leadership, workforce technology, and the future of work? We are proud to partner up with Transform 2025, the premier event where technology meets the diverse community shaping the workplace of tomorrow. March 17th through the 19th at Wynn Las Vegas. Join over 350 dynamic speakers, interactive small group discussions, and cutting edge tech innovations, all designed to help you lead workplace transformation with confidence. But it's not just about learning, it's about connection. Build your network, exchange ideas, and challenge the status quo alongside progressive people leaders, workforce tech investors, and future of work entrepreneurs. Exclusive for Talking TA listeners. Get a special discounted rate when you register now. Visit talkingta.com to secure your spot today. Transform 2025, where the future of work happens. See ya in Vegas. Now, when you talk about too, though, building your own agents, right? So, and you can learn on YouTube how to do it. What are some of the some case examples that people outside of HR or outside of TA would want to use a training for in terms of building agents? I always want to call them chatbots, but they're not. They're agents.
Chatbots, yeah, they're agents. All right, so I have got one that I built that scours the news every day at 5 p.m. and it looks for certain keywords: AI and HR, AI's impact on the workforce, AI and HR tech. I've got a whole bunch of different things. Um, and I only want it from reputable news sources. So Pew Research, Fastco, Inc.com, HBR. I don't want some rando's opinion about something. I want something that's pretty vetted. And once you find that there is a trend over the 3 days, I want you to alert me and ask me, hey, do you think this is something that you should write about? And if I respond yes, I want you to go and pull all of the relevant articles, throw them in a database for me. I want you to come up with some keywords and give me an outline of suggested material based off of what you're seeing in the market.
Amazing.
So it comes in and it delivers it over to me. And I'm like, I like that. I think that's something I can write on.
And do you write it or do you have
Oh, I write it. I write it. Unless it is something very deeply research, I do leverage like Gemini's deep research. I like its style.
yeah, like the Gemini, yeah.
Yeah, but I do put it in my own words because anyone that has followed me for any period of time, they are going to read and tell the difference between, oh, this is textbooks Trent and this is normal Trent. So for something like a white paper, I am going to use my formal voice. But if it's a blog, I had somebody not too long ago come up and said, "I've read the last 3 blogs and you haven't cursed in 'em. You know, are you okay?" I'm like, "That one, what does that say about my brand? But 2, yes, I'm okay. I'm just trying to polish it up a little bit." But you gotta stay in your own voice. So get it to do all the research, and I'll actually go in once I've written, and I'll go and put it back in Claude, and I've got a list of all my different blogs, and I'll say, "Hey, can you review this and add some relevant hyperlinks, backlinks to other blogs?" Can I do that? Yes, but I just don't have the time for that, and I don't have the energy, and as soon as I start it, I'll forget what I'm doing and start doing something else. Claude does it, and then I copy and paste, put it in there, and schedule. You can. I've mastered that on the platform. So Claude, I have trained it. ChatGPT and Gemini, I have trained it. I haven't quite mastered how to do that in the agents, but I mean, I've only been doing this since the holidays, really. I just kind of went down this rabbit hole. I was like, I could build this shit. Um, and tried. And but luckily, I've got a couple of people at the company that don't think any less of me whenever I ask them a coding question. And there were a couple I slacked over the holiday. I said, I'm about to lose my mind. can you look at this? This is the error code that I'm getting. What do I need to fix? And of course, they look at it and they go, oh, it's line 68. You need to change this to this. And then it works. So I could get frustrated and stop, but I don't because I know that this is some stuff that I'm going to need to do. And also, these are the kinds of conversations that I'm having a lot with CHROs and business leaders that want more out of HR. I need to drink the Kool-Aid. I need to go in there and figure out, can this be done? And a lot of times the answer is yes. The bulk of the time is actually maybe.
It's interesting you're talking about this because at the very beginning of our conversation, we talked about what this is gonna look like in 2030. So let's look at 2030. That's only 5 years away. Can you 2030 is only 5 years away. I can't even believe it's 2025. I'm still like, "Real pinch me."
Yeah. Well, whenever I introduce myself and say I've been in HR for 2 decades, it just a knife is right in the heart. But so 2030, big prediction, just keeping in mind that we're going to agentic AI is going to be just everyday life. It's going to be just something that everyone is used to. In HR, I really think that the wall between learning and development and talent acquisition is going to come down. There will be no L&D department or recruiting. There will be one department called talent. So this is how I'm picturing it. I'm a talent advisor. All right. You're my hiring manager. Hiring manager comes in and says, hey, I need a software developer with this skill set. Okay, cool. I go in and engage one of my agents who goes in and does two things. One, it starts looking externally, but it's waiting on the internal agent to go and pull anyone who maybe is ready for that next promotion. Maybe they've taken enough of their development that we can get them over the hump. So it's going to source and bring those people up first. All the while, my external is doing the same. I'm able to go in and say, hey, these are the ones that I think that we should do. Let's put them through an AI technical interviewer, which is out there now. We use an AI technical interviewer. Voice and coding is mind-boggling. I love it. And the the cost of it is just it's almost a steal, but I digress. So they do all of that. It comes back to me. I make recommendations to the hiring manager. My little agent follows them, and I don't have to remind the hiring manager that they need to give me feedback in 48 hours. I have that agent that's doing it. It's going to aggravate the absolute living hell out of them until we get the feedback. All right. And then, but let's go one step further. How about once a week, twice a month, once a month? I can go and pull a report of who are my frequent offenders who do not give me feedback within 48 hours or 24 hours of an interview or a submission. And I can send it all the way up to the CEO. I can put it on a dashboard. Talk about some accountability. All right. So I go in and I extend the offer. Immediately, another agent picks up, walks that person through all of the onboarding paperwork, your normal, typical stuff. But let's go one step further. That agent also says, hey, Denise, I noticed that you graduated from such and such. And in the little intro form where I was asking you about your interest, you said that one of your favorite hobbies is reading books by the ocean. I've actually partnered you for your first 2 months with Betty, who has the same interest. She actually graduated from the same college and she's working in a parallel department. On your first day, I'm going to do a virtual intro and I'll suggest the two of you do a virtual coffee. Think about the impact, think about the experience there because 66% of the terminations that happen in the first 90 days or the voluntary resignation, 66% of it is because of an awful onboarding experience. But that agent, you've already upgraded it. You can have them go in and say, hey, you have a $50 budget for swag. What would you like? I can go ahead and order it for you. Then they start. They have an AI agent that's checking in with them. How is things going? If there's any kind of red flags or even yellow flags, that's where that TA person comes back in and says, hey, Denise, everything okay? My agent told me that you didn't get your laptop in time or you were having some issues in a meeting. Is there anything I can help you with? That's something that only a human can do because you need to hear the emotion in my voice. You need to hear that I care. And AI can't convey that yet. So then once that person starts, within, let's just say 30 days, that agent emails you, Denise, and says, hey, congratulations on your first 30 days. Great work. I've gotten some feedback from your managers. You're all 5 stars. Great work. Now, I know it's early, but we really believe in the growth of every employee. So here's a list. Here's the six different journey paths that you can take in the organization. Which one interests you? Data? Cool. Well, here are the jobs in data. Which one interests you the most? Senior? All right. Hang on just one second. I go and pull the resume. I'm analyzing. I'm looking at the rubric of what's expected out of my senior data engineer. And then as an AI, I can go in and say, hey, here's some gaps. But luckily, I have access to our LMS. I've already pulled up some courses. Here's what I would suggest over the next 18 months. And since I have access to your calendar, do you want me to go ahead and block off like 30 minutes a day for this? I can put it on your calendar now. Then I can also report back your progress to your manager, to the HR business partner, to the head of people. And that employee is no longer invisible. They're no longer invisible. They have that digital twin that's going, "Hey, let's move. Let's keep things going." So that's the utopia. That's where I see HR going in 2030, and I am freaking ecstatic about it,
That's amazing.
if you couldn't tell.
But going back yeah, no, it's amazing. It's funny because I had a conversation last week with somebody, and we talked about how the talent advisors you were talking about talent advisors,
Mhm.
and we're gonna become talent advisors to the hiring teams and to, of course, your business leaders and whatnot. But
Right.
what about talent advisors, though, on the employee side? So now you've got your agents that are working
Mhm.
with between talent acquisition and the employees to create this roadmap, a career roadmap, like you're talking about for your employees. But is there an intersection, though, possibility for a talent advisor on that side? In other words, so let's say
Absolutely.
that employee doesn't know, which way do I want to go? And there are all these opportunities. But before I spend a half an hour a day studying the coursework that the agent has suggested for this particular line, I would really like to talk to a human and get a little coaching on my career path and what to look forward to, what not. Are there going to be opportunities then for recruiters to work that angle as talent advisors for the employees and not just on the hiring side?
Yes, because they'll actually have the time to do it now. They won't be chasing down onboarding paperwork. They're not going to be chasing down feedback as often. They're not going to have to go and push this piece of paper all the way through the process. They're going to be freed up to focus on the human. And I also want to challenge us to get rid of the term candidate experience. I want it to be employee or potential employee experience because that's going to change your entire mindset. Because if you have candidate and employee, it's like this big hump that they have to chase over. I look at it as potential and employee experience. If I'm talking to you for the first time, it may be 2 years before I hire you, but your experience with the organization starts from that first hello. And I think that now, with some of this process stuff going to where it needs to, which is to an agent, the real recruiters, the real ones who just they do it for the intrinsic value, they're going to be rewarded because they're really going to be able to step into that advisor. And remember on the front end, we have that agent going internal and external. How many internals they just the employees, they just focus on what they're doing. They're not checking the job board every day to see what does ABC company have. Now they're not going to have to because they've got an agent, their little twin agent that's going to come in and go, "Hey, Denise, according to your plan, this is something that you're interested in. Did you see this job posting? You want me to let the recruiter know that you're interested?" Boom, done. So I'm really excited. It's going to be a lot of pain to get there because I do think that there are going to be some people in D, and then also some more recruiters who are going to have to either retool or they're going to be put into the market.
Because in the past, recruiters have not had to have a particular type of education. It's not like you go to school and get a degree in
Oh God,
recruiting,
no.
right?
Mm-mm, no. Yeah.
That's come up before. How come we don't have coursework for recruiters? How come colleges aren't providing programs for well, I mean, they have some for HR, but they don't have them for recruiting on the talent side. Is that gonna
Right.
change?
Um.
Especially with
hmm.
all the coaching that's gonna be going on and the advisement?
I don't think it would be recruiting per se. I do think that there would be probably a track for that talent advisor that would be managing a lot more on the interpersonal skills, a lot more on the developing and maintaining pipelines. Also, for every employee going forward, they're going to have to learn and be trained on how to interact with this agent to make it efficient and to make the person efficient. Because if you don't have that, then you're just going to have mass chaos. You're going to have the AI doing one thing and the TA doing another. You don't want that. You want them lockstep. And I do think that they're going to have to actually pick up some instructional design because, yes, can an AI help you build the content? It can, but there's also some theory behind that on the ID that you really need to kind of dig into to make sure that you're delivering not just a quantity of product, but a quality product. So I do think that there's going to be a track in HR that's going to be more on the consultant mindset. What is the organizational behavior around leading change management? Because that is a huge need in HR. The amount of change that is coming, 90% of it is going to be people related. It's not going to be process related. It's going to be people related. And the people challenges are the ones that are the most challenging, the most complex, and also the most important to solve.
So then who are going to be the most likely talent advisors hired for these roles? People with communications degrees? People with
I think
psychology
it's
degrees?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, because I mean, to your point, I don't ever look at my degrees in marketing with a minor in statistics and finance, and somehow I'm in an executive leadership and I don't even remember what my master's is in. It's in project some I don't know management or something. I don't even because I don't use it. It's completely irrelevant. I think that degrees for jobs like recruiting. Do you want someone that's going to a 4-year degree? Yes, most cases. But if I had someone that had a 2-year degree or 7 years of life experience doing the job, and they have those consultant skills, they have that analytical knowledge, they're very process oriented, they're excited about AI, and they're focused on the human, I'll take that all day long. I'll take that over someone that majored in recruiting because they're going to try to come in. It, it's kind of like whenever I was at banking and we would hire grads. They would come in and go, well, according to my finance class, I'm like, just take all that shit and throw it out because that's not how you do it in the real world. So let me just kind of train you. I would so much rather train than untrain, right? So I think it's really going to kind of get back down to the skill based hiring. Who has the skills to be able to level up in the talent advisor role as I have defined it today?
I still think though that we're gonna need some level of training or upskilling even if we don't do it at the
Oh,
college
totally,
level.
totally. Not at a college level though. That
Right.
needs to be in-house
Yeah.
because especially on the AI agent side, every organization is going to have different AI agents doing different things. And so when you come on, part of your onboarding is now going to be not just where's the water cooler, where's the bathroom, here's your thing, here's how you file whatever. It's also going to be here's our agent. Let me introduce you how to work with them. That's going to be part of the onboarding going forward.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Well, I think too that when you are looking at upskilling people for new talent advisement roles, and again, there's so much fear right now in the
Right.
recruiting community. They're kind of concerned. What are we supposed to do? I mean, there's a thousands of people out there. What are we
Yeah.
supposed to do to upskill ourselves? How are we going to make those changes? And also internal companies. Where do we send our employees, especially the employees we really want to upskill, to keep them on board? Is it going to be the agent then who's gonna decide which way these people go
Oh, no, no, no,
or which positions that they're offered or suggested?
no. I love AI, but I will never turn that over. I'm just not. I will take all the advisement, I will take all the data, all the insights that it has, but at the end of the day, it's still my decision. Same thing with hiring managers. They're so worried that AI is just going to say this is who you should hire. We're not. I don't know that we're ever going to get to that point, right? It's got to be something that there's some type of human that's in there. This is a huge decision and a huge change. No one wants to really necessarily do that only with AI, but what I will tell you, and my husband's been in the market since September, I guarantee you he'd love to work with an AI that would at least give him some kind of an update on where he is in the different processes and not have to rely on a recruiter. That I can assure you.
Yeah. So the recruiters really at this point in time and sourcing, of course, well, of course, I don't know. I heard from a hiring manager this morning and he said AI is BS. And he said, and I'll tell you why. From a sourcing perspective, he said, because AI is looking for skills, it's not looking for competencies, period. And I thought, wow, that's an interesting take. So, I mean, we're getting a lot of different feedback from people on AI for sourcing, right? So we're still going to be in this gray area, I think, for a while. And I brought it up the other day. I was on another podcast and brought it up. I said, "How is AI going to look at someone's resume?" And let's say somebody is really super capable, but they just wrote a really crappy resume. How is AI going to differentiate between skill and ability, skill, personality, skill, potential? I mean,
But can I ask you a question? How can you and I do that just looking at a crappy resume? Are we any better?
where somebody has been, longevity. Well, of course, that's another conversation in itself. They're calling we coined the term the other day, smart hopping instead of job hopping.
Right.
That's a whole
I
different
like that.
conversation.
Smart hopping. Yeah.
But
But the thing that you just gave, those are variables in an equation that can be evaluated by a higher intelligence. How long have they been there? So they went from a junior to an associate to a senior in 2 years. Wow. They must learn things quickly. There's a lot of inferences and things that can be done. So I think it's kind of short sighted. Is it 100% now on target? Absolutely not. But I would put it up against a human and see what that rate of return is, and I guarantee it's going to be pretty close. And you're looking at how many resumes versus AI's ability to tap in. Whenever whenever I worked for an international institution, we had 55,000 or 57,000 resumes in our ATS. And yet, the recruiters, every time they got a search, would go and find more people. I'm like, start there. They've already engaged with our brand. They're interested. That AI is going to be able to do it at speeds, maybe not 100% human accuracy, but the speed will make up for it.
it's interesting because we have a client that we're working for right now, and their ATS is loaded with candidates, and I don't know if they don't have enough recruiters or again, the recruiters are relying on the AI to source. But for example, they're looking for people with a particular skill set, and the candidates don't always list that particular skill set. And again, too, we're looking at companies when you're looking for people from certain companies or certain industries, there's mergers and acquisitions that can skew things, right? Yeah, I mean, there's just so many things that can skew data where the AI agent might miss something that's really important. So there are a ton of candidates that are in their ATS that they're missing, and even with their internal staff. So at some point, so you have the ATS that's combing through all of them, but don't you still need that human touch to go in and maybe do some search, put some search strings in there to find things that maybe AI is going to miss? I mean, is there still going to be that opportunity? And for maybe for how long?
But whenever we have recruiters that actually go into the ATS and start sourcing, then we'll worry about the
Yeah,
rest.
yeah, that's
So,
true too.
right?
That's true too. I love it.
So,
I
let's
love
fix
it.
the first problem before we start
Yeah,
worrying
yeah, I
about
mean,
the
yeah,
next one.
yeah, I'm kinda going but no, I like what everything you're telling me, and I think that a good starting place for people who are watching our conversation is going to be to go onto YouTube to upskill yourself on AI. Somebody mentioned the other day too that the older Gen X people and the baby boomers who are still working, there's still a lot of fear around embracing AI. So, I mean, just that beginning step is to go in and just sign on to any of them. What would be the easiest one, do you think? Claude, do you think would be the easiest one for somebody who wants to
No,
start up?
no, Chat GPT because it's popular. It's kind of easy to use. Claude can take a little bit of getting used to.
I think the first thing I used Gemini first, and the first thing I used it for, somebody had suggested introducing myself to Gemini and giving it a list of 10 questions to ask me so that it got to know me better.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen that before. Yeah, it's cool. Well, I have enjoyed the conversation
Yeah,
and really excited
definitely.
about the future.
Yeah, definitely. This has been great. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Trent. I really
I
appreciate it.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, me
All
too.
right,
All
take
right.
care.
All right.